It was pure pandemonium. It was absolutely scary. It was terrifying. And I would have likened it to some type of war movie.
Police searching for answers after this weekend shooting that left one woman dead, two others injured after an after-prom party that's all going down on the city's north side here in Indianapolis.
She was standing at the front door of a house full of teenagers when a man in a ski mask looked her dead in the eyes and asked if he could come in. She said no. She didn't know him. Nobody did. And in the next second, he put a bullet in her head at point-blank range. That's not a horror movie. That's what happened on the north side of Indianapolis in the early hours of May 3rd, 2026, while prom decorations were still hanging on the garage and high schoolers were celebrating inside. And here's the part that keeps pulling at me. She was a parent. She was there to protect those kids. And she did, right up until the moment it cost her everything. Before we go any further, I need you to do something. If you're watching this and you care about real stories, real victims, real families sitting in living rooms trying to make sense of the unthinkable, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell. Leave a like. It takes 5 seconds, and it's the only reason channels like this can keep telling stories that deserve to be heard. Don't let cases like this disappear into the noise. Now, let's talk about what actually happened here, because the more you dig, the more disturbing this gets. Her name was Brittany Marie Members, 38 years old. But if you looked her up on Facebook, you'd find her under a different name, Brittany Grundy. That detail is going to matter a lot before this video is over, so keep it in the back of your mind. For now, just know who she was. A mother, a woman who on a Saturday night decorated a garage with banners, rolled out a red carpet, and turned a short-term rental on North Park Avenue into something special for her daughter, a Crispus-Attucks High School senior who had just been to prom. Think about that image for a second. Red carpet, banners with her daughter's face on them, kids dressed up, taking photos, celebrating a milestone. Brittany didn't just allow this party to happen. She built it. She was the kind of mother who shows up, who makes the moment feel like a movie, who wants her child to have memories worth keeping. And she was there that night, not as a bystander, but as the person standing between those teenagers and whatever was outside that door. Her father, Hollis Members, described her in the most heartbreaking way. He'd just come back from the funeral home, still in his black pinstripe suit, when he sat down to talk to reporters. He said, "No one knows unless it happens what it feels like to lose a child." And then he said something that I think about every time I sit with a case like this. He said he could see brain matter in her hair. He said it out loud because he wanted people to understand what a bullet point blank to the head actually means. It's not a news ticker. It's not a statistic. It's his daughter. And here's something that almost breaks this case open before it even gets started. This was not the first time Hollis Members buried a daughter. His other daughter, Sheena Grundy, Brittany's half-sister, died in 2016 in a murder-suicide at the hands of a man she was involved with. 2 daughters, both gone to gunfire, both from the same mother's side of the family. You have to sit with that for a moment, because from a psychological standpoint, that kind of repeated family trauma doesn't exist in a vacuum. It tells you something about the world these women were navigating. Now, let's build the timeline of that night, because the sequence of events is where this story stops feeling like a tragedy and starts feeling like something much more deliberate. Brittany posted a photo to Facebook earlier in the evening. It was taken in the driveway, right in front of those garage decorations on that red carpet. Festive, celebratory. But if you look closely at the people in that photo, you notice something that didn't quite fit the prom night aesthetic. At least 3 of the people in the frame were holding weapons, for firearms total. 2 of them were large semi-automatic rifles with banana clips, posted publicly, hours before the shooting. Now, I'm not here to judge the choices made that night, but I want you to think about this from a behavioral psychology standpoint. When weapons are displayed publicly on social media before a gathering, it can sometimes function as signaling, whether intentional or not. It broadcasts who's there. It broadcasts capability. And depending on who's watching, it can also function as a provocation or a target. We don't know which of those things, if any, is relevant here, but investigators do. And that photo is almost certainly part of what they're looking at. Just before 1 a.m., someone came to the door. Not a friend, not a late arrival from prom. Multiple people, according to what Brittany's father was told, wearing ski masks. Let that land. Ski masks at an after-prom party for teenagers on a residential street in a neighborhood that neighbors describe as quiet and family-oriented. These were not people who stumbled onto the wrong house. You don't wear a ski mask to a party you plan to enjoy. Brittany answered that door. She looked at whoever was on the other side and said no. You can't come in. We don't know you. And according to her father's account of what he was told, the response was almost casual in its cruelty. So we can't come in? And then a single shot, point blank, to her head. What happened next is where this case fractures into something almost impossible to fully process. Security footage captured 3 distinct volleys of gunfire. The first was a shot that killed Brittany. Then a white car with its headlights off, already caught on a neighbor's Ring camera slowly backing up the street. Roll forward again as kids pour out of the house in a panic. And then the second volley of gunfire erupted. Whether that was the attackers continuing or something else, investigators are still piecing together. The third volley came from inside. People at the party fired back. And this is where that Facebook photo becomes something more than a prom night image, because those weapons that were displayed online hours earlier were used in a firefight that followed the murder of the woman who was protecting the house. Close to 100 evidence markers were placed on the scene to catalog shell casings. Stray bullets crossed the street. A bullet went through a neighbor's front window, through the couch his son always sits on, through a wall, and stopped at the back door. The neighborhood absorbed the violence of what happened that night, whether it wanted to or not. So, who were the attackers? That is the question IMPD's homicide and aggravated assault units are still trying to answer. No publicly identified suspects. No detailed physical description released. What investigators have said is that they believe the shooting was targeted, not random. That word is important. Targeted means someone chose this house, this night, these people. That means motive. And the motive is what nobody has been able to pin down publicly, although the streets of Indianapolis apparently have plenty of theories. And this is where the name comes back. Grundy. Brittany went by Brittany Grundy on social media. Her mother's family name. A cousin named Richard Grundy was, about a decade ago, the leader of one of Indianapolis's most notorious and violent drug gangs. He's currently in federal prison on a narcotics conviction. His own daughter died in an accidental shooting after he was locked up. Associates from that crew have been shot, killed, wounded, arrested, or imprisoned over the years. An associate known as Lil E, Eric Butler, was recently shot at a tire store on the Far East Side. The Grundy name in Indianapolis carries weight. Heavy weight. The kind that follows a family whether individual members ask for it or not. Social media ran with it immediately. The theory spreading online was that Brittany's murder was retaliation, part of some ongoing vendetta connected to the Grundy family and their history. And psychologically, I understand why that narrative took hold so fast. It offers an explanation. It creates order out of chaos. And when something as violent happens in a community, people desperately need a framework to make sense of it. But Hollis members push back on that directly. He said Brittany carried the Grundy name on her page, but she did not live that life. She did not run with that world. And IMPD has said the same. They have not drawn any connection between the shooting and the Grundy family legacy. The investigation is being treated as its own separate event. Here's where psychology of this case becomes genuinely complex, because we're left holding two things that are both true and neither resolves into a clean answer. 1. Investigators believe this was targeted. 2. The family insists Brittany herself was not a target in any gang-related sense. So if the attack was targeted, what exactly was a target? The party? Someone inside the party? Someone connected to someone inside? Was Brittany simply the person standing between the attackers and whatever or whoever they came for? That last possibility is the one I keep returning to, because it would mean she wasn't killed for anything she did or any world she was part of. It would mean she was killed for doing exactly what a mother is supposed to do, standing at the door, keeping strangers out, protecting her child's night. And the cruelty of that, if true, is almost unbearable to sit with. There's also a behavioral question that doesn't have a clean answer yet. The people who came to that door were wearing ski masks. They came prepared. They came in a vehicle with the headlights off. They came to a party they knew was happening. That level of premeditation suggests this wasn't spontaneous. Someone planned this. Someone gathered information, chose a night, assembled a group, and showed up. What were they trying to accomplish? What did they think was going to happen when they knocked on that door? And when they were turned away, when a mother said no, what did they think justified the next 5 seconds? Those are the questions that live in the gap between what we know and what we're still waiting to learn. And until arrests are made, until a motive is confirmed, until the white car with no headlights is traced back to something, Brittany Members is buried, and her daughter carries away to prom night for the rest of her life. What do you think happened here? Was this retaliation connected to a name Brittany carried, but a life she didn't live? Was it aimed at someone inside that party, someone who drew the wrong kind of attention? Or was it something else entirely, something the investigation hasn't surfaced yet? Drop your theory in the comments. I want to know what your gut is telling you, because sometimes the audience sees angles that the headlines miss. If this case matters to you, subscribe to Psychology of Crime right now. Hit the bell so you don't miss updates as this investigation develops. We're watching this one closely, and we're not going to let it fade.